Hi everyone. Today we are going to study another element of the logical design, that is the user interface design. So user interface design is a very important element of logical designing in system analysis and design. User interface design is concerned with the dialogue between the user and the computer. So when I say user interface design, that means the conversation or the interaction or the dialogue that takes place between the user and the computer, that is being done with the help of the user interface design, which is basically providing an interface between the user and the computer or the system. The user interface design is concerned with everything from starting the system, that is the moment you log into the system, to the eventual presentation of desired inputs and outputs. So that from the very beginning, that is when you log into your system, to finally giving the inputs to the system and getting the outputs in return, everything is a concern of the user interface design. The overall flow of screens and messages, like whatever screens on the system that you see, the messages that you receive, this is called a dialogue between the user and the computer. Now there are some guidelines that must be followed for user interface design. That is, there are certain points that you must keep in mind while designing the user interface design. What are these guidelines? The first guideline says the system user should always be aware of what to do next. So the interface should be designed in such a manner that the user knows what has to be done next. He shouldn't be clueless regarding what should be done next. So the things should be very clear, unambiguous, so that he has a clear picture of what has to be done next. The screen should be formatted so that various types of information, instructions and messages always appear in the same general display area. So basically the formatting while designing the user interface design should be done in such a manner that whatever information has to be displayed, whatever instructions have to be given, or whatever messages have to be displayed to the system user, they appear in the same general display area, so that the user looks at that particular display area only when he is looking for some information or instructions or messages. So this is how the screen should always be formatted. The third guideline says that messages, instructions or information should be displayed long enough to allow the system user to read them. Now many times we have seen that the messages or instructions are displayed for a very short duration of time and we are not able to read them properly or completely. So the messages, instructions or whatever information that has to be displayed to the system user must be displayed for a long period so that the user can read them properly and clearly. As per the fourth guideline, we should use the display attributes sparingly. That means when only they are required to be used, the display attributes should be used and not every time. The fifth guideline says that the default values for fields and answers to be entered by the user should be specified. So just to give the user about an idea of what kind of values are expected in certain fields, what kinds of answers are expected in certain fields, default values should be provided so that the user has an idea that what value has to be provided or what answer has to be provided for a certain field. The sixth guideline says that a user should not be allowed to proceed without correcting an error. Just in case a user has entered a wrong value or a wrong answer into a field, he should not be allowed to proceed without correcting an error. Like many times you must have seen while entering your phone number in a form, if you enter a number which is greater than 10 digits or less than 10 digits in India, then you are not allowed to proceed further. You cannot move on to the next field. So this is what should be done. As per the 7th guideline, the system user should never get an operating system message of fatal error. So, the user should only get errors regarding the mistakes that the user has done while entering values in the fields, but the user should never get an error from the error message from the operating system or any such kind of a fatal error, but because then that's a mistake of the system and that should never happen, that should never be displayed to the user. As per the last guideline, that is the 8th guideline, if the user does something that could be catastrophic, that could cause a sudden damage to the system, if user does any such thing, then as a precautionary measure, the keyboard should be locked there and then so that the user cannot type anything further, and this would prevent any further input from the user's side, and an instruction to call the analyst or the technical support should be displayed on the user screen so that he knows that he has committed some kind of a catastrophic error. The keyboard has been locked, and now the next step is that he should call an analyst or a technical support person to undo that mistake. So this was all about how a user interface design must be designed while planning the logical design in system analysis and design.